Okay, we're live. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for jumping on. This is a special live that I wanted to do. I wanted to talk about if you're somebody who's been struggling for a very long time with cravings, with weight gain, other issues maybe creeping up like fatigue that doesn't go away. There's a reason and there's an underlying condition that's driving it all. And so, if you guys have been watching my Facebook for a while, I have been talking about insulin resistance for the last 2 months. I had no idea what insulin resistance was a few months ago. In fact, when my friend came to me and he said, Carrie, I think you're insulin resistant, I was a little bit offended because in my mind, insulin resistance, I thought happened to someone who was like extremely obese. And that is usually the case long term down the road, what happens. And there's reasons why that happens to them. A lot of it is the insulin is pushing cravings and stuff like that. Or I thought you had type 2 diabetes. Like that's what I thought. I had no idea what it was. And so I was a little bit offended. I was like, dude, I gained a little bit of weight. Like probably if a woman would have came to me, I probably would have, wouldn't have been so offended by it. And then when he explained it to me, I kind of blew him off. And it wasn't his fault. It was because it's something that's not talked about and it was something that I've never heard about. And so when you've never heard about something like insulin resistance and someone's telling you that's why you're gaining weight, that's why you're struggling, that's why you're having all these other issues, I blew it off because it wasn't something we're being told. And I'm so grateful that he came back to me and he followed up and he was like, "Hey, Carrie, did you look at the information I sent you?" And I was like, "No, I didn't. I don't have that." And he's like, "You do. Look at it." And I was glad that he was like that with me. So I sat down, I looked at it, and my eyes were opened. If you've been watching me for a while or you've been really close to me and we're good friends, you know how sick I was and how much I was struggling for just about 2 years. And learning about insulin resistance has changed everything for me. Not only did I drop the weight that I was struggling with, you guys, I've lost over 17 pounds in 2 months. Effortlessly. It started coming off of me, but I was dealing with nonstop nausea where I was on medication for the nausea. On top of it, I was taking gravel for it. I wasn't leaving my house anymore because I was so sick. I had no energy. My husband was doing the grocery shopping. He was taking the kids to our activities. And if there was things that he couldn't do because he was at work, I just kind of gave myself as much gravel as I could deal with to go out and take them. And I just wasn't living life anymore. I stopped traveling. I stopped doing all kinds of things because of the nausea, the pain I was dealing with, and later learned that it was all connected to one root issue. So I brought my friend Trent, my new friend Trent. I met him a couple months ago, and he really opened my eyes to this issue of insulin resistance. Like this, it was like a whole other world to me. And I think to so many other people, they don't really understand what insulin resistance is. I think they think the same thing that I thought. And so, Trent, can you explain to people really the issue and that it's more common than we actually think it is?
Absolutely. And I think you said it really well. You didn't know what it was. You didn't know that you had it. So insulin resistance is this leaky pipe that is somewhere in the walls of your home that is destroying your home. It is destroying your home and you don't know about it. And so you can't do anything about it. Like it's just kind of leaking and slowly destroying the value of your home. And would you want to know about a pipe like that? Like I would want to know if there was a leak under my house or in my house that was slowly destroying and causing mold and wood rot and all those things. This is insulin resistance for most people. And the good news is, as soon as they address that leaky pipe and fix it, everything in their life starts to feel better. You start to, like you've dropped 17 pounds effortlessly, right? Same thing
Mhm.
happened to me. My wife reversed her prediabetes, reversed her endometriosis. And let me just say that insulin resistance is everywhere right now. Everywhere. This is the problem that you likely have that you don't know about. So I'm going to just share my screen here. And if let's do a little test. Let's see if you might be insulin resistant, right? So, one of the things that people are talking about more and more nowadays is this problem of insulin resistance. And it is the root cause, the underlying problem of a bunch of problems that people are very familiar with. Things like obesity, things like fatty liver. Two-thirds of American and Canadian adults are overweight. About 25%, so one out of four, has fatty liver. And there's probably another double that haven't been diagnosed. Prediabetes and type 2 diabetes is everywhere. Uh, Migraine headaches often come from insulin resistance. Alzheimer's and dementia, often insulin resistance. Heart disease, the number one killer in the world, is insulin resistance. PCOS, the number one cause of infertility among women, insulin resistance. So all of this is coming from this big bad wolf, which is insulin resistance. Now, there are early signs and symptoms of insulin resistance. So one of the things that we look for is skin tags. If you have skin tags on your neck, in your armpits, in your groin, if you have skin tags on your face, you are insulin resistant. In fact, you're not just a little bit, you're a lot a bit of insulin resistance. That is a serious advanced sign of insulin resistance. Insulin is a growth hormone. These little growths are not normal. This is hyperinsulinemia happening in your body. Dark patches of skin around the neck, around the face, the elbows, that is insulin resistance. And then the number one contributor to insulin resistance is belly fat. So everybody has fat. We all have fat. We have fat on our butt. We have fat in our legs. We have fat in our love handles. There is regular fat, which is called subcutaneous fat. And then there is visceral fat. And the visceral fat is the dangerous type of fat. Visceral fat is this fat underneath the skin that causes a protruding belly. If you have a small belly that protrudes, you're insulin resistant. If you have a big belly that protrudes, you're very insulin resistant. Now, things you can't see, cravings for sweets or salty foods, constant hunger, an inability to lose weight, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, brain fog, anxiety, depression, skin problems like psoriasis, acne. We already talked about the skin tags. Um, Constant hunger, high blood pressure, all of these point back to insulin resistance. Now, Carrie, I want to talk for just maybe a few, maybe 2 minutes about why we're all becoming insulin resistant. And then the good news is what can we do about it? Okay.
Mhm.
So if you feel like you're being described right now by some of these symptoms, if you have one or more of these symptoms, you are not alone. So in the US, there are 100 million people that are now pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic. That is an advanced stage of insulin resistance. And the biggest wow factor to me is that 9 out of 10 of the people that have this problem do not know that they have it. They're getting fatter, they're getting sicker, maybe they're getting skin tags, maybe they're getting chronic fatigue, maybe they have brain fog, maybe they have anxiety or depression, and they think, oh, this is just getting older. No, it's not getting older. This is not normal. This is insulin resistance, okay? Now, why is this happening? Well, everybody in the world is familiar with what white rice looks like. But did you know that in nature, wild rice actually looks like this over here? Around every single grain of rice is something called the bran. This is the fiber part of the plant. But food makers have been taking this out, and we only eat the white part. This is what wheat looks like in nature. Food makers remove all of the fiber so that they can make processed food. So the process of processing food is the process of removing the fiber from the food. We've been doing this at large scale over the last 50 years or so. And over the last 50 years, we have created a diabetes and obesity epidemic. Everybody's becoming insulin resistant. Even fruit and veggies are being processed and the fiber is being removed. When you remove fiber from all of the food, you end up with some problems because there are some serious benefits of fiber. One of the benefits of fiber is that it controls your blood sugar and your insulin. Another benefit is that it controls your cholesterol and your triglycerides. It is incredibly important for cardiovascular health. It also is what controls your gut health, your digestive health. Do you have irritable bowel syndrome? Do you have anxiety or depression? Do you have celiac? Do you have food intolerances or sensitivities, right? All of this comes from the wholesale stripping of fiber from the diet. Fiber is also the thing that keeps you feeling full and helps with weight management. It's a shame that hundreds of millions of people now are going on to these injections to help with weight control that have serious side effects, but they're doing it because they're just so desperate because the food noise is so loud. Well, it all trickles back to this, okay? And when you remove this from the population, you end up with a bunch of health problems. And this is exactly where we are today, right? So we're eating processed food that's been stripped of its fiber, and we're eating it all the time. We never take a break from food. Never. When you don't take breaks from food, you bathe your body in insulin. So every time you eat and take a snack, especially if it's a processed food, you're spiking your blood sugar and raising your insulin. This is a problem. This is a one-way ticket to insulin resistance and eventually obesity and type 2 diabetes, right? And this is why we have such a problem. But there's good news. Really, really good news. And the good news is that if you have any of these symptoms, just look at this. And I want this to hit home for a second. As you look at this list and you consider yourself or your loved ones, which of these symptoms resonates most with you? For me, it was the constant cravings, the belly fat. My dad died from prediabetes, high blood pressure, and eventually my dad died of stage 4 colon cancer. My dad struggled with obesity his whole life. He had fatty liver, and I was headed in the exact same direction. Which one resonates with you? 90% of the people that are listening to your live right now, Carrie, have one or more of these problems. And the best news is it's totally fixable. We have figured out how to fix it and how to do it without any drugs or treatments or expensive therapies. So, all of this, all of the insulin resistance stems from the same problem. You have blood sugar and insulin that is constantly elevated. This white area up here is elevated. This is high. We don't want blood sugar or insulin up here. When blood sugar and insulin are up here all day, every day, we do a lot of fat storage and we do a lot of damage to our body. If you have neuropathy, that is damage to your body. If you have inflammation, that is damage to your body. If you have high blood sugar, that's glycation, that is damage to your body. What we want to do is we want to keep it down here in the cool off, in the blue zone. When we get into the blue zone, we get fat burning and relief. That belly fat, that visceral fat starts to disappear. And we get a relief of the damage, right? And we're actually able to do this. And now there are tens of thousands of people around the planet that are doing what I'm about to explain to you. We're able to solve the problem with a little bit of fasting and a little bit of fiber. Okay. We're literally just controlling the blood sugar and insulin levels, keeping them in range so that we can get fat burning and relief. And we do it with these yellow and orange packets right here. Now, this is going to sound a little simple, but what I'm about to explain is going to change healthcare. And I'm not exaggerating, and I will give you all the proof you need to see in just a moment. So this is something that now is listed in the physician's desk reference. If you're a skeptic or if your doctor's a skeptic, they can go look it up. Your doctor's going to say, wow, that sounds amazing. Tell me everything you can tell me about that, right? What we do is we sip the yellow one whenever we're not eating. I have some right here in my bottle. I sip this whenever I'm not eating. Whenever I'm fasting, I will sip on this, and this makes me forget about food. The orange one we have just before eating. This is a blend of plant fiber that creates an envelope around whatever you eat, thereby controlling the blood sugar, the insulin, the cholesterol, the triglycerides. Both of these are very satiating and kill food noise and raise GLP-1, but they do it naturally. Okay. So I realized that a yellow packet and an orange packet to solve serious problems like this might sound a little far-fetched. But if it really did work, would it be worth a shot? Right? So this is what we're doing. Carrie, you've been a great advocate of this. A lot of people will pay literally $250 a month to buy this protocol, either from Amazon or from the manufacturer's website. We have a special discount price. Anybody that orders this and wants to try it can use it, and they will lock in what we call preferred pricing, which is 159 even, 159, not 169 in the US. And I forget what it is in Canadian, but it's also a screaming deal in Canada. And you will never ever pay the price that everybody else pays on Amazon or the manufacturer's website. You will have preferred pricing forever. Now, the best part is if you have one of these problems, maybe you have belly fat, or maybe it's neuropathy, or maybe it's PCOS, or maybe it's cravings, whatever your problem is, I want to ask you this question. If this really would solve your problem and you knew it would work, is there anything that would hold you back from giving it a shot, right? Because the very best part about this protocol is that it works for everyone, every time, guaranteed. If you use this and are consistent and use it properly, it will work for you. Now, if for whatever reason you're not satisfied, you can just get a refund. You can try it risk-free for 90 days, and if you're not totally blown away, you can just get a refund. This is what you'll get. You'll get the yellow packets and the orange packets. You'll get a nice little diamond bottle, and this costs about $5 a day, and we're replacing one meal a day and replacing at least one or two snacks a day. And so it actually pays for itself. I'm cash positive buying this. Now, we have 20 plus clinical studies proving that this works and is absolutely effective. We have it in the physician's desk reference. If you live in the US, it is HSA qualified, it is FSA qualified, and there are no drugs in it. It is a nutraceutical. So I thought maybe, Carrie, I don't want to overtalk. I thought maybe I would just talk a little bit about, as I wrap up here, what this has meant to me.
Yes,
This was a
let's.
game changer for me. As I said, my wife reversed her prediabetes and endometriosis. This has worked for lots and lots of people, men and women, old and young, black and white. It doesn't matter how healthy you are, you will love the way you feel on this protocol. This is my buddy Cody. We've been friends for 20 years. This is Cody, I think about 6, 7 months on the protocol. It completely changed his whole life. And while most people see the weight loss, and think, oh, well, yeah, I mean, that's pretty impressive. His blood work was incredible, like a new man. And for the first time in over a decade, Cody started having regular bowel movements, which was the most important thing of all to him. Um, I now have hundreds and hundreds, maybe even thousands now, of people who have texted me and sent me messages saying that this protocol has changed their life. A lot of the messages sound like this one. Hey, Trent, I just got my results. I went from an 8.0 to a 5.3 on my A1C. My primary doctor says I don't have diabetes anymore and I can lose the metformin. Lots of people improving their A1Cs, lots of people losing significant amounts of weight in short periods of time. Lots of people that are really getting results that they've never gotten before. And it's all because we're just leaning into the science. There's nothing magical about this. We're literally controlling, as we control blood sugar and we control insulin, the weight comes off, the symptoms subside. Here's somebody with psoriasis before and after, right? Insulin resistance is the heart, it is the root cause of so many of these auxiliary problems that when you solve for the insulin resistance, you can also often solve for many of these other problems. So, all right, Carrie, I don't know if I'm going the direction you'd like me to or not, but I wanted to explain that and anything you'd like to say as we transition here.
So first thing I want to say is I know this video is going to get shared out, so please get back to the person who shared this on their Facebook page. Get back to that person. I guess I have a question. So for me, I know for years I've been, I've had a lot of those symptoms that you talked about, but I was taking so many different products and they helped a little bit, but they never hit the root issue. What would you say to people like me who keep doing the same thing over and over again and getting the same, it helps for a bit, but it never solves the problem. What would you say to someone like me, who keeps doing that?
I have two responses. So the first response is that, hey, if you keep doing the same thing you've always been doing, right, you're going to keep getting the same results. And I know we've all
Yeah.
heard that, the definition of insanity thing, right? But I think a good question to ask is, if I knew it was risk free and I knew that there was real science backing it, I mean, it's in the PDR, it's been studied by the Cleveland Clinic, the University of Sydney, BYU, UNLV, the list goes on and on. If I knew it was scientifically proven and I knew it was guaranteed, am I willing to try something new? And if you're willing to try something new, then that makes it an easy decision. The second thing that I would say, and this is a little bit of tough love here, okay, is whenever you try something new, it's going to be difficult for a little season. When you start going to the gym after not going to the gym for a season, your muscles are more sore than they would otherwise be. The gym kicks your butt for that first 3 or 4 days. And then a week later, you're starting to feel better. And 2 weeks later, you can go to the gym on repeat. I mean, it's like you love the gym. You're feeling it. Like the gym's your happy place, right? But in that first season, it is hard. In the first season of a diet, it's hard. In the first season of a new job, it's hard. In the first season of anything, there is an adjustment period. And so, my plea to you, if you decide to use this protocol, you've got to use it. If you don't use it, nothing changes. And so, what I would do is, as soon as the box shows up, this is what I tell everybody. As soon as the box shows up and you get these packets, I want you to grab one handful of them and put them in your car. Another handful of them, put them by your desk at work. Another handful of them, put them in your purse or your briefcase. You never want to be in a spot where you don't have it, because the only way this doesn't work is if you don't take the product daily. If you use the protocol daily, it will work for you. And so part of it is, if you keep doing the same thing you've always been doing, you're going to keep getting the same results. So you've got to try something new. And why not? I mean, what if this could work for you the way it's worked for thousands and thousands of other people? What if this could be the thing that finally was the last thing you ever tried because it worked and maintained the results, right? What else would happen in your life if you got your health under control? What else would happen at work if you were clear-headed and productive and felt like you did 20 years ago, right? What else would happen in your relationship and your love life if all of a sudden things started working the way they're supposed to, right? And why not try something that's guaranteed to work and that's clinically proven, right? So yeah, there's that, but you have to use it. And that's a tough love is, hey, maybe your first day on it, you're like, this is new to me. I don't know how. Just stick with it, use it properly, and it will work.
And it makes you feel so good that you want to stick with it anyways. I know for me,
It
it
makes you,
did.
and that's why we call it feel great,
Yeah.
is because the first thing people notice is they feel
I
really
feel
good.
great.
Let me just maybe say this also, Carrie, and this is a
Okay.
little, I promise to be very, very brief with this. Who comes to mind? This is my dad. He's now dead. He doesn't know my kids. My kids don't know their grandpa. My dad had all of these symptoms. He probably had 10 of them. And because we didn't know that such a thing existed, my dad is no longer with us. So as you're watching this, I mean, consider your dad, your mom, your spouse, your brother, your uncle, your friend. I wish that I knew about this and that my dad could have done it because it would have saved his life.
Mhm.
Okay.
I think that's
Anything
the
else, Carrie?
I think that's the number one thing that really drew me to this was I felt like, man, I could really go out and help people and change lives. Like there's supplements out there and they're great and they're helping people, but this is a whole other level where you're completely changing somebody's life when you can get people off of medications and get the weight down, get the, blood sugars, like so many different things. That's life changing.
It is, and I would say that, this is not protein powder. This is not vitamins.
Yeah.
I'm nothing against protein powder or vitamins. They're great. I like both of them, right? But this is a nutraceutical. So there's pharmaceuticals, there's natural remedies, and then there's these nutraceuticals, which are going to change the game, right? And so, um, we've known for decades that if you don't eat too much too often, you lose weight. Who would have thought, right? No, I mean, it's obvious, but the challenge is how do I get myself to stop when the food noise is so loud and I'm hungry? If I'm hungry, I'm going to eat, right? We've known for 50 years that fiber can be a game changer for people, but how many people get enough fruits and veggies and seeds and herbs and plants in their diet, right? Those things are clinically proven and have been for a long time to be super duper effective. And now I can literally have a garden salad in my back pocket 24/7 that I can whip out anywhere. And it's just made all the difference to me. So it makes it very
Mhm.
convenient and easy.
Exactly. I guess one more question on that, just because we get this question quite often. What's the difference between this and Metamucil? Like
Ooh,
just the
good question.
regular fiber that you get somewhere, because there is a huge difference. And I think people need to understand that.
Yeah, so the biggest study we've seen on this, there was a study with I think 1,500 people, and this 1,500 person cohort or whatever they call it, this study was done on the microbiome. So they looked into the gut microbiome, and inside our gut there are trillions, like trillions and trillions of bacteria. These tiny little bugs are inside of you. They're not human cells, they're actually microbes, they're organisms that are alive, and there's probably I don't know, something like 20, 30,000 different species of these organisms that are alive inside you right now. And these little bugs have everything to do with the way you're feeling right now, with the way your
Mhm.
metabolism works, with what you're craving. If you feel like a sweet, they're telling you that you want a sweet. If you feel like a salty food, it's them that's craving the salty food. There's a reason why you aren't craving protein and healthy foods, and it's because the bugs that like those foods, the protein and the fiber, are losing in your ecosystem. The nasty bugs that like all the sugar and sweets and grease and fried, food, they are winning the war. And when they're winning the war, it hijacks your health, right? And so, what is the way to get the good guys to win the battle? And the way to do that is simply put a diversity of plants. In an ideal world, if you were able to eat 30 species of plants every single week, you would start to feed the good soldiers inside your gut microbiome. They would get stronger. They would start winning the battle. Pretty soon, the sweet tooth and the salt tooth and the cravings would disappear. Maybe the depression, the anxiety would disappear. Maybe the gastritis, the colitis, the food sensitivities would disappear. Maybe the blood sugar would finally be under control. All the things that we want to regain control of our health would start to happen if we can get those good bacteria to win. And unfortunately, the modern diet, instead of 30 species of plant, there are 5 species of plants that most people are eating: corn, wheat, soy, rice, and potatoes. Those are the 5 plants that are primarily in the diet, and everybody else is starving. And so when you take a Metamucil or you take Benefiber, I mean, I've got some of both right here for demonstrations. Benefiber is pure wheat dextrin.
Hmm.
This is the cheapest, most, uh, you know, I think ineffective way you could pretend to be helping somebody with their health. Hey, take this; it's going to make your gut healthy. This is pure wheat dextrin. You went from 5 sources of plants to now 6. In fact, you didn't because it's still wheat. If you take psyllium husk is a really powerful fiber. I actually love psyllium husk as a fiber, but it's still just one more source, right? What we want is we want a blend of different plants, all the different fibers: guar gum, pectin, beta glucan, locust bean, acacia, all the most powerful fibers that work synergistically that feed the gut microbiome. The other part is the viscosity. If the fiber is not viscous when mixed with water, it doesn't work. So we could dump a canister of this on every meal. It wouldn't change anything. And we've done side by side comparisons. This is hands down the best fiber blend that I can find on planet Earth.
Perfect. So I hope you guys understand that. Like I said, if you have questions, get back to the person who shared this. I'm sure lots of people will share this. Get back to that person. They can help you. They can give you all the information and they can give you that discount that Trent talked about. Thank you so much for your time, Trent, and sharing. I truly believe that we need to get this into as many people's hands as possible, because it's going to save lives. And I'm all about that. I'm all about, I know that medications help people, but if you can treat yourself naturally, that is a game changer. And if you can get the weight off, that's the other thing that I love about this, is it's not just a supplement for weight. You lose the weight, you keep it off. And if you're like me and you've yo-yoed for years up and down, and can't figure out why you can't keep it off, there was a reason. And so if you missed the beginning of this call, go back and watch the replay. Trent, again, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Hey, happy to be here. Thanks for
Yeah.
inviting me. All right, Carrie, we'll
Thank
see you.
you. Bye.